Gentlemen, we got an absolute legend in the building today, Mr. Ryan Levesque. So Ryan is a seven-time Inc. 5000 CEO and founder, two-time #1 national best-selling author. He's generated over $100 million in revenue and has successfully sold two, not one, but two of his companies. And then he and his wife and his two boys live on their family farm where they actively raise and grow their own food and conserve the land using regenerative, holistic practices. He's also a front row dad and fellow happy hustler, and I'm super pumped to have you. Let's clap it up for Mr. Ryan Levesque.
You want blissful balance in your personal and professional life? Great. What's up, guys? My name is Kerry Jack, and I want to help you happy hustle a life you love, one full of passion, purpose, and positive impact. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, a professional model/actor, a digital marketing specialist, a podcast host, author, a biohacker, an eco-warrior, a martial artist, a hippie cowboy, and a humanitarian. My goal is to educate, inspire, and entertain you to live a life of passion, purpose, and positive impact. It is time to happy hustle your dream reality.
Ryan, man, the floor is yours, brother. If you want to add on to that intro or say anything, take it away.
No, man, that's amazing. I appreciate that introduction. I'm excited to be back together. You and I had a really, really great conversation probably a few months ago now that sort of spawned this conversation. And originally, I wasn't going to be able to make this date because I had a trip that conflict with it. And due to a number of circumstances, that trip got moved, and here we are. So very excited to be here. Very grateful for the opportunity, and excited to have a conversation around some of these return to real concepts, what I believe are three colliding forces that are reshaping the world as we know it, how to think about our relationship with AI and the technology that we use to run our businesses, and where we should inject it and where we should actually consider perhaps staying away from it, and how to thrive in this new era as business owners, as entrepreneurs, and for some of us here as fathers and as leaders of our households as well. So yeah, anything is fair game. Like I told you, man, I'm happy to take this conversation wherever you want to take it, and excited to dive in.
Yeah, man, love it. So we are going to, I love how Justin, great time. We are leaning into personal relationships for all client facing. AI is only the back end. Yeah, love it. So guys, put your questions in the chat, and we're going to be ping ponging back and forth. I have a list of questions. I'm going to keep it kind of open interview forum style with Ryan. Specifically, Ryan, I do want to talk about those three colliding forces to start. All right. And these are the three forces that are reshaping our world. What do they mean for us entrepreneurs and all the leaders out there? Start by just identifying them and break them down, specifically how we need to be applying the lessons from each as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll take us back a few years. I spent the last 20 years building businesses predominantly in the digital space, and went on a 10-year run where we built a very successful, fast-growing, hyperscaling company, seven-time Inc. 5000 over a 10-year period. And we brought the business to sale in 2021. And long story short, received a life-changing offer, got the deal to the one yard line, and then that deal fell apart. And when that deal fell apart at the 11th hour, it was with a private equity group. It was actually the same private equity group that bought Alex Hormozi's company, and they were looking to make an acquisition in our space, American Pacific Group, and they had earmarked our company to purchase. And then in 2022, start of 2022, the M&A market completely changed when Russia invaded the Ukraine, crypto markets crashed, capital markets crashed, and there were certainly fears at that time that there was going to be a World War III event, or at least some type of global recession. So M&A market completely backed up. So it kind of led me to kind of hit the pause button on my business and my life and really reflect on, okay, well, this was not how the story was supposed to end. Like, what's going on? And I took time away from kind of being in the business, running the company as CEO, and had a lot of time to reflect. And we'll talk about some of the personal reflections in a little bit later. But one of the sort of business reflections that I really spent a lot of time thinking about is that we are in a new world. And I know AI is the thing that gets all the headlines right now. But I believe that it's actually the confluence of three specific forces that are hitting us all at once right now that are going to reshape the next decade. And this is right on our doorstep, what I'm about to describe. This is right on our doorstep. And there are three forces. There's an economic force, there's an environmental force, and then there's an existential force that are colliding all at once. And I'll kind of unpack each of these at a very high level. And I want to invite you to kind of think about what this means for you and your business based on, where you intersect with each of these. So first, on an economic level, we are at a point right now, if you've studied any of like Ray Dalio's work, for example, around this changing world order, where we are in late stage American transference of supremacy as the primary global superpower on this planet, succeeding that to China. And there's a predictable pattern that's played out in the last 2,000 years, if you've studied political history, if you've studied economic history, that's playing out right now on the world stage. And all the signs are there. And it's a cycle that's known as the big debt cycle. Ray Dalio describes it as the big cycle. He's not the inventor of this idea. He's just the retailer of this idea. He's written about it in his books, but economists have written about this for the last few centuries. And basically, there is a pattern that emerges where every 80 to 100 years, give or take, we see a shift that happens. It's a reset that takes place. And this has happened if you study the change in world order of, for example, the Portuguese Empire, the Spanish Empire, the Dutch Empire, the French Empire, the British Empire, and now the American Empire. It's shown up predictably. And if you kind of do the math really quickly, the last time that we had one of these transference of power in this big debt cycle resetting was in the Great Depression leading into World War II. So you do the math and you say, okay, well, we're due for this next change in world order, this next reset event. There's a deleveraging that takes place, oftentimes a devaluation of the global reserve currency that takes place. In this point in time, it's the US dollar. You see a level of turmoil that takes place. There's disruption that doesn't last forever, but it certainly happens. And for the last 2,000 years, this has happened predictably every 80 to 100 years. So you do the math. That was about 90 years ago. We're due in the next half decade or so. So that's the first force that's sort of upon us right now. The level of debt that exists, the deficit that exists at a sovereign level in the United States, the personal consumer debt that we have, the overinflated stock market that's propping up what we believe to be a bullish growth economy. In the reality, it's just a big circle jerk between Sam Altman and OpenAI and NVIDIA and Oracle just propping up everyone's valuation, but it's just air being circulated around. There's no actual economic activity that's taking place. If you felt that in your bones, if you felt like this, the spinning plates need to fall to the ground at some point, it's probably coming. The reckoning is coming. So just kind of tuck that economic force aside for just a moment. At the same time, we have an environmental force that's hitting us right now. If you study the work of the environmentalist Nate Hagens, he describes the period that we've been living through all of our lives as the great carbon pulse. And by the way, the reason why on the economic side that most people don't have an appreciation for what's coming is because we only experience this most typically once in our lifetime. So you look at it like how old we are right now. We haven't experienced it. So there's this natural tendency to think this time is different, right? AI technology or blockchain technology or, something, some external force will make this time different. So we have kind of this natural inborn denial that no, the world has changed. That was then, this is now, because we haven't lived through it. Only the oldest people on the planet, the centenarians, have actually lived through that economic shift. Now, on the environmental side of things, it's a different story because every living human being on the planet has been alive during the Great Carbon Pulse, where basically we've found a way to extract 4.3 billion years worth of sequestered carbon from underneath the Earth's surface in the form of fossil fuel and use that to power everything that we know to exist, from this Zoom meeting that we're on right now, to the car that you drive, to the home that you're in, to every piece of technology that exists in your home, to everything that you do. It's based upon this paradigm. And we're at a point right now where we're dangerously close to what's known as being past the point of peak oil. And peak oil is the maximum amount of fossil fuel that we've been able to extract from the ground in any given unit of time. Call it on a day, on a month, in a year. We're past that point right now. And we're even closer to the point right now where we require more than one unit of energy to acquire to extract 1 unit of energy from the ground. And you don't have to be a brilliant mathematician if you're in business. If you have to spend $1.50 on Facebook ads to get $1 of income in return, at some point you're going to go broke. And now this is happening on an energy level. And this is the same energy that's powering the thermodynamic reality of data centers that power AI and everything else that we have. So this is happening right now, leading to what Nate Hagans describes as the great simplification, which is a point in time where the way that we live is not sustainable, and we have to find a way to have a soft landing. Otherwise, it's going to be a very painful experience for humanity. So this is the second force at play. And the third force, of course, is the existential forces that have been accelerated with the advent of AI. Yuval Noah Harari has written about this in *Sapiens* and *Homo Deus*. And basically this idea that when we have a technology that can not only procreate itself, it can actually create more of itself, but it can actually become more intelligent along the way. And human intelligence is no longer the pinnacle of intelligence, certainly on a localized basis, perhaps on a generalized basis with AGI in the not too distant future. What does that mean for us? Like, how should we be preparing our kids for this future? All the skills that you and I work so hard to acquire to gear us up for this new reality, what does that mean for all of us? And what does it mean to be human? And where does it lead to our businesses and what we sell and so on and so forth? So we have these three forces, almost like three asteroids that are coming together from different angles, and they are about to collide all at once and reshape the world as we know it in a massive, massive way. So there's this backdrop that is much bigger than, our B2B or any piece of technology or LinkedIn or anything that we spend most of our time as business owners thinking about and focusing on, that is happening in the backdrop. And it's an important set of context for us to be thinking about, where do we go from here? What does it mean for our businesses? What does it mean for the choices that we make on a professional level and on a personal level in our businesses, in our lives? But it's certainly something that we can't ignore. It's certainly something that needs to be at the focal point of our conversation. So with that, to answer your question, Carrie, that represents the three colliding forces reshaping the world as we know it, and what we need to be thinking about as entrepreneurs and leaders.
So, way to kick things off with a bang there, Ryan. I mean, holy cow. I don't know about you guys, but I feel smarter just listening to Ryan talk. My IQ shot up a little bit just from being in your presence. So thank you for that. Very well read, very high intellectual capacity. As you guys can already tell, Ryan knows a thing about a thing or two. So again, I'm really grateful for you, man, to bring this into our awareness, because as entrepreneurs, we get caught in our silos. We're just heads down, oftentimes getting after it with the thing in front of us. And this is important to have that big picture context. When it comes to the economic, the environmental, or the existential colliding forces that are reshaping our world, I want to just pause for a second. Does anybody have a specific question related to one of those forces that they'd like to double click on before we kind of move on to the next piece?
Ryan, and I don't know if Carrie just pop in. Is that cool?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Chex.
Ryan, what do you see in the opportunities and then the mind shift that's kind of needed to happen around, to me, it seems like the economic drives existential environment. And unfortunately, if we, in that kind of sense, what do you see in the opportunities versus the mind shift in that?
Yeah, it's great. And Chex, that's the perfect segue, I think, into the next kind of subtopic within this, which is, on the one hand, it feels like we are at this singular moment in history right now, where we've never experienced this. We don't know what's coming next. But if you are a student of history, then on the other hand, the reality is we've been here before. And we've been here before in different ways. And I think one of the things that we can learn from is if we study past periods of incredibly dynamic moments of change. So if we go back, for example, to the first industrial revolution, and this will answer your question, Chex, around where's the opportunity both in the mindset shift and perhaps the business opportunity that this all affords. If we go back to the first industrial revolution, and we see what spawned from that was a counter-revolutionary moment that's going to be very much simpatico with the happy hustler movement that we're seeing right now and everything I know, Carrie, that you stand for, which is not only the Romantic movement, which was born out of the first Industrial Revolution, but also the Transcendentalist movement, which is Thoreau and Emerson, Walden, a return to the wild, a return to connecting to biology, which is everything that you embody with your retreats and your masterminds and the treks that you do and all the cool stuff in Montana and Alaska and so on and so forth. So that was born out of that. Then if we look at the second industrial revolution, which was the mechanization of the early 20th century, we had the arts and crafts movement that came out of that. And that was a return to handmade goods, furniture and decorative arts and things that were made by hand, not just spit out by a factory. Then if we look at the post-war response to the degradation of the environment post World War II, we had the back to the land movement, which is where the homesteading movement was first born. And then we look at the 21st century and we have this sort of response to constant connection. We have a sort of digital minimalism movement that's spawned from that. And the reality is that every single one of these periods of fast dynamic change, which brought about it a level of degradation and a level of fear around what this change is going to mean, has brought people back to this return to what's human, this return to what is the essence of humanity. And the way I've described it, it's this return to real. And so on the one hand, we're living through the singular moment in history, but on the other hand, this return to real revolution that's taking shape right now, where people are rejecting this synthetic life that is digital by default and instead requires a level of analog by intention, is showing up in the world. So what that means is what people are craving in this world of artificial everything, from the food that we eat to the content that we consume, is this return to what's real, what's tangible, what's actually created in an authentic way that comes from a human soul, not from some supercomputer device that we've all abdicated our decision making to. So within that is the opportunity, checks, to answer your question. Within that is this opportunity that I believe there's an opportunity for us to not only live, but also give what the world is craving through the way in which we communicate in our business, the way in which we show up with our personal and corporate brands online, and the way in which we fulfill our products and services, and not make the mistake that I think a lot of businesses have made, which have been to abdicate our voices and our fulfillment to a commoditized form of delivery by leveraging AI in a way that waters down and erodes our brand and eliminates any differentiation that we possibly might have in this place where at a time where people are craving this connection to what's actually real. And we can double click into all of that. But I just want to shot across the bow style, put that out there for us to have a conversation of what that actually means. Now that there's this, we have evidence, and I can go deep into the studies and the data and the science behind this. There's evidence that people are craving this. There's this craving that's bubbling beneath the surface right now, even though people don't necessarily have the words to articulate what is actually happening and why they're feeling what they're feeling at this moment.
Very well said. And again, Ryan, I think how you put it, analog by intention, this inner feeling that most are unable to put words to describe. You have a very eloquent way of describing it, the 5 shifts to return to real, what we can actually do as entrepreneurs and business owners, but also just as human beings. If I may, let's dive in to those specific shifts. And I think that'll even shed more color for the guys.
Yeah, so write these down as I articulate them. And what I want to encourage you to maybe reflect upon, and I can even just throw this as a question in the chat, is which of these shifts do you feel the most energetic pull toward in your own life and in your own business? Okay, so what does it mean to return to real? Well, I've identified that there are 5 shifts. Shift number 1, hands in the dirt. More time with God-made things over man-made things. And this is the first shift that's required, because we spend time in a synthetic environment that's an artificial environment increasingly. I wrote this the other day, we live in a box, we travel in a box, we get food delivered to our doorstep that fits in a box, and we've never been designed or been meant to live in a box. but increasingly our lives are experienced through a screen. There's a crisis among young people. I literally just got off a call shortly before this call with Clint Greenleaf, and we're having this conversation that, something like 20% of Americans are on SSRIs right now. There's a pornography addiction epidemic that's taking place, especially among young men living their lives through video games, not experiencing the real world. They don't know how to approach a girl to even ask her out. Never mind, the time that we spent making out with our first girlfriend on the couch in our parents' basement. Like, that's not happening right now. Our parents had to warn us as men, don't get a girl pregnant. And it's the opposite warning right now. It's get a girl pregnant. The future of humanity depends on it, because we're living in this artificial synthetic environment. So that's first one, hands in the dirt. God made things over man-made things. Shift number 2 is go analog, thinking beyond the screen. So when we think about how to reach our customers, the most competitive piece of real estate in anybody's home is the 14 square inches that fits in your hand, this right here. And yet there's so much physical space that we can own if we are creative, where we can actually own mind share in our prospects' minds by thinking beyond the screen. One of the most practical ways to do this is, the most valuable piece of real estate outside of a phone that exists in a person's house? You know what it is? Their bedside table. It's the thing that they think about and look at first thing in the morning when they wake up, and the last thing that they look at and think about when they go to bed at night. And what do you want to have sitting on that bedside table? At a minimum, you want
your book.
Your book. You want to have your book living on that piece of physical real estate in a person's home. So what do you need to say? What do you need to write to own that physical real estate? So going analog is shift number 2. Shift number 3, optimize for oxytocin over dopamine. Heart, humor, humanity. So dopamine is the neurotransmitter that's gotten all the headlines in the last 2 decades. We hear about these addictive loops and, the shade of red that Facebook has figured out is the optimum shade of red to get your brain firing and wanting that dopamine hit. And I mean, there are many, many studies around this. I think dopamine is not the most important neurotransmitter to be optimizing for in this next decade. I think it's oxytocin. Oxytocin is the neurotransmitter of trust. Hey, Carrie, did I just lose you or did I just lose my screen?
No, I got you.
All right. I lost my screen. I'm going to see if I can pull this up. See what's going on my side.
We can still see you. Yeah.
Right. I may need to, well, I'm just going to pretend I can hear you. It's for some reason, let's see if I can get this going.
Your camera?
My screen just decided to die. So I'll pretend I can see you. I can't see you, but I can hear you. Optimize for
the tech is mad at you because we're talking shit, but it's okay.
Totally. Yeah, this is it right here, man. It's like
fuck that screen, Ryan.
Yeah, Skynet is let's see if I can get this going. Be more be able to see you.
Don't worry, I can stall by just talking more shit to the screen if you want.
That's fine. I can hear you fine. I just can't see. Okay. If you see me and you can hear me, then I'll just keep rolling.
We can see you and hear you, so you're good. Yeah. You look great.
Yeah. So oxytocin is the neurotransmitter of trust, and the difference between dopamine and oxytocin is dopamine is easily manipulated using technology. So we can use, like I said, the shade of red, for instance, on an iPhone alert or a Facebook instant messenger alert. Oxytocin, in most cases, requires a level of physical presence in order for you to actually feel it. We think oxytocin is a neurotransmitter of love. It gets a lot of headlines around, it's the neurotransmitter that gets elicited when a woman has a baby and there's a bond that's created between mother and child. But you can create oxytocin by intentional in-person experiences. You can create oxytocin with powerful storytelling where people feel bonded to a character. And we live in a world right now where not only do we live in a default state of distrust, Edelman Trust Barometer, which I've written about many, many times, has measured the state of trust for the last 25 years. We're at the lowest state of trust that's ever been measured since the beginning of this measurement. But what shifted, Carrie, in the last 18 months is with deepfake technology, we no longer trust ourselves to be able to discern what's real and what's not real. So we get a voice message. I had a voice message from one of our investment brokerage houses.
What is up, fam? I want to share with you something that I'm super stoked about, and that is my Neurable AI headphones. These things are bad to the bone. Probably the best headphones I've ever owned. They have these EEG tracking brain sensors that help me boost performance and avoid burnout because they tell me when I need a brain break. They also have amazing sound. You can take calls, they have noise cancellation, all the things that headphones deliver. Neurable.ai and Master and Dynamic have created in these MW75 Neuros, and you get the hookup. That is the best part. You can go to Neurable.ai and use code HAPPY to save $100 off your pair. Badass Neurable.ai headphones. So check them out. One of the best things that I've ever done for my business is invest in my brand. Specifically, that means investing in my graphic design, my logo design, my company website, company swag. All things brand are imperative. Heck, you can catch me rocking something Happy Hustle branded pretty much every single day of the week. And I'm super excited about pairing up with my friends at 99 Designs by Vista because they can help you optimize your brand too. And right now they're running $25 off your first design contest if you go to 99designs.com/happy. But not only do you get 25 bucks off, when you do that and you shoot over an email to my team, Carrie at The Happy Hustle, you can be entered to win one of these amazing swag boxes, which will have a lot of fun and super cool swag from The Happy Hustle. And fun fact too, this swag box was designed and created by 99 Designs. This box is a great representation of my brand. So when you get a package from us, it comes in a Happy Hustle branded box with all different types of websites, custom quotes, shout outs for the podcast, 10 alignments lists. It has a personal message from myself on the inside of the box that shares a little bit about our mission. It also shares the definition of the Happy Hustle, aka the systematic harmonization of ambition and well-being, ensuring life balance without the burnout. So if you're interested in optimizing your brand, you gotta check out 99designs.com/happy. Save yourself 25 bucks on the design contest. Send over your email receipt to Carrie at The Happy Hustle and be entered to win a new swag box. We're picking a winner every single week. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
And I had to validate that it was actually real because there was something just a bit off about it. I had to reach out through another means just to know, was it really you that reached out to my investment brokerage house, or was this deep fake? And I've been the victim of deep fake technology on more than one occasion, where it was a bad actor trying to replicate someone that I know through 11 Labs and HeyGen style communication that wasn't even real. This is the world that we live in here today. And we've all probably had some version of this where we got a text message or a LinkedIn message from someone that we didn't think was real. And this is showing up increasingly. So shift number 3, optimize for oxytocin over dopamine. Shift number 4, this is controversial. The best things in life don't scale. Focus on fewer, deeper, less. Now, I say this because in a business group like this, there's an obsession over scaling, right? It's like the question that I always get asked where, Ryan, well, how do I scale this? But does it scale? It's the big objection to anything when I advocate, some of the moves that I'll share with you that have had a big impact on my business and which I encourage you to consider. But I ask you, can you scale that hug that you had with your kid or with your partner, your loved one? That sunset that you shared or that sunrise, how do you scale that? You can't scale that. Like, it's a moment in time. You're savoring that moment in time that once it's gone, that moment will never show up ever again. And yet, for some reason in business, we think that we can scale what we're doing in a way that is infinite in many cases. The reality is that not only do the best things in life not scale, but I believe that the unscalable is the last moat that you have in your business. Technology is no longer a moat. Like, I can take your website and with my limited coding skills, I can vibe code an exact replica of your website in a matter of minutes that took you 50 years, 30 years of your life to the sum total of your experiences. I can represent that in a matter of minutes. So technology is no longer a moat. What is a moat? It's the choices that you make, the things that are unscalable, that your competition is not going to be willing to do, that actually differentiates you. And speaking of differentiation, the fifth and final shift that I'll talk about is to become a category of one, because nobody can beat you at being you. So what does that look like? Well, there are three pieces to that equation that we can infuse this conversation with. And Carrie, I'll shut my big mouth and we can take this wherever you want to take it. Three ingredients you need. Number one, you need category of one positioning. And category of one positioning requires three things. One, you need to talk about the confluence of forces that have reshaped your corner of the world, that have made this moment in time different from the past. What's changed in the world? That's number one. Number two is, what is your unique, unconventional, contrarian, counterintuitive way of doing things that's different from everybody else? What is it that pisses you off about your industry that forces you to do things differently? What would a professional in your space, when they look at what it is that you do, wonder, why do you do things like that? And this is true whether you are an HVAC technician, a plastic surgeon, a digital marketer, whatever it is that you do. And third and finally is, what is your origin story that is your missionary reason for being in business, as opposed to your mercenary reason for being in business? In other words, why do you do what you do? What is it that there are a million ways to make $1 million? Why did you decide to do what you're doing? What's the mission behind your work? So those three ingredients are critical to create a category of one positioning that leads you to the clear and obvious choice in your market. And it has to come from a place of authenticity. It cannot come from a place that you've invented in your mind. It's got to come from here, your heart, not here, your head. So that's the first ingredient. Second ingredient that you need is a single source of truth, way to express your unique point of view. That is the articulation of your category of one positioning. So for me, that's a weekly email newsletter that I sit down and write myself. I don't abdicate that to AI. I sit down and write this myself every single week. And it's where I express my unique point of view, what I believe to be true, the challenges that I'm struggling with, the mistakes that I've made in my life. But it comes from here. It does not come from some outside source. And last but not least, the third ingredient that you need is what's known as a strategic content ecosystem. Because I don't know about you, I'm not a full-time content creator. As I was texting with Carrie before this call, I'm in a very busy season of life. I'm threading the needle just to be here, where I had to pick up one of my boys from school, get him off to his soccer game that I'm coaching. My other son has a soccer practice that I've got to lead today. I'm leading two of my boys' soccer teams in this fall. I've got a farm, 140 acres that I manage. We've got cattle, we've got chickens, we've got trout, we've got pigs, we've got bees. I've got 500 trees that we've planted. I've got 2 gardens that I got to hustle to get harvested before our first hard frost kicks in the next couple weeks. So I've got a lot on my plate. I'm not a full-time content creator. I've only got limited time to express my point of view. And I do that in the form of a single source of truth piece of content that I write every single week. And I have a strategic content ecosystem that leverages AI to repurpose that one email that I write into a dozen short form YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook videos. One long form YouTube video every single month, every single week. Multiple carousels that go out into all these different platforms. A podcast whereby I read my email that I write, and that forms my weekly podcast that I write. So I write one piece of content every week that gets transposed and repurposed into 37 different pieces of content that gets people discovering my work with these 3 ingredients. So the 5 shifts to return to real: hands in the dirt, go analog, oxytocin over dopamine, the best things in life don't scale, and become a category of one. And how do you practically actually implement this at a non-theoretical level? Well, these 3 things that I mentioned: category of one positioning, single source of truth piece of content, and a strategic content ecosystem. So Carrie, I'm happy to dive into any of that you think would be helpful for our group in the time that we have left, but that's a good kind of stage setting starting point for the conversation.
Yeah, man. I love those 5 shifts to return to real. Guys, out of curiosity, put what number resonates most with you, 1 through 5, in the chat right now. Which number really hits? I know for me, it's spend more time with God-made things over man-made things. Oh, look, everyone's, a lot of guys are putting 1. I mean, it's such a great, concept to consider. And I love that we're talking about this in real time. The happy hustle, our whole goal, guys, is to, again, systematically harmonize ambition and well-being. And right now, our well-being is at war with technology and this inundation of dopamine dumps. And when I hear Ryan's message, it resonates so true inside my full being. And I really am grateful again, Ryan, for you bringing these to our awareness, because again, we get caught in the grind, the hustle, the silo of our business. And it's so important to think big picture, macro. So does anyone have any questions when it comes to the 5 shifts of return to real? Anyone want to kind of double click on one of those or go a little deeper with Ryan? Chris, you unmuted for a question?
Yeah, I'm curious about the oxytocin one. So heart, humor, humanity, you're talking about storytelling. Uh,
Mm,
I don't know, what are some other ways that that looks like to just really connect in an authentic way, right?
yeah.
What are the tangibles, expressions of that?
It's a great question. And what I would say is, so I will, I'll share kind of an overarching idea to really think about, and then I'll show you an example of this. And I'm pulling up something on my phone. That's why you see me look down like this, that I think will be um, helpful to consider. So when we live in a default state of distrust, where by and large people come to you in the world, your brand, who you are, and there's more skepticism now than you ever will have reached. And so one of the ways that we can build a connection with our audience is to find moments in our life that we can share a bit about ourselves that allows people to see these 3 ingredients. They can see your heart, they can see your humor, that you can laugh at yourself, that you don't take yourself too seriously, and they can see your humanity, and they can realize that you're a real human being with a real beating heart. And I'll share an example of what this can sound like and what this looks like. So last year I had this moment, this week where I was just in this funk. And I don't know how to describe it any other way than to describe that I didn't want to be with anybody. I didn't want to talk to my wife. I didn't want to be around my kids. I just wanted to be alone. And I just felt like chemically there was something off in my body and I just could not shake it. So trusting this feeling, I decided to just go out to one of our pastures where our herd of cattle was. And for whatever reason, my instincts just were to be with this herd. And when I got out into the pastures, I got down on one knee and I just broke down. I just broke down in tears. I just started sobbing like I don't know, like a crazy person. I just started crying uncontrollably. And for whatever reason, one of our heifers walked up to me on the pastures and she just kind of put her nose against my face. And then before I know it, she started rubbing her neck on my face. And before you knew it, I was covered in cow mucus and just grossness. And interestingly, this was one of our shy cattle who had never done this to me before. Her name is Athena, the goddess of wisdom. And in her infinite wisdom, she knew that something was up with me. And in this moment, that's what snapped me out of it. Started from this place of sobbing and crying uncontrollably, and Athena got all of her cow boogers all over me, and I started laughing uncontrollably because I thought how ridiculous I must look in this moment. And in this experience that I walked home from our pastures, walked to our farmhouse, and I sat down and wrote this piece that I'll read to you right now. It's very brief, that I titled "The Oscillation Between Self-Loathing and Self-Love." And it goes like this. Fresh from a morning hike in our pastures, reflecting on the nature of life, I sit here typing this with some raw and vulnerable thoughts to share. If you've ever experienced feelings of worthlessness, transient or otherwise, if you've ever felt like a failure, if you've ever felt like you had everything figured out only to have everything in your life fall apart, temporarily or otherwise, if you've ever found yourself slipping in the gap versus the gain, if you've ever oscillated between feelings of self-loathing and self-love, understand that somewhere in the middle, somewhere within, sits acceptance. And if you ever struggle with feelings of not measuring up, of not being enough, of feeling that your own self-worth is tied to the value of your accomplishments, And if you ever find your self-talk and introspection slipping into questions like, what's wrong with me? Instead of questions like, what can I learn from this? Understand that it's okay. Understand that you are not alone. Understand that this is part of the full spectrum of human existence, and that what you are doing when you stop hiding from what you're hiding from, when you stop running from what you're running from, when you stop distracting yourself by being so damn busy all the time, is giving yourself the opportunity to slow down, to take a moment to reflect, and to actually feel what's real.
Mm.
And I share that with you here today to give yourself permission to find a tender moment in your life and to share that with your audience, with your community, with the people in your life. Because for people to be able to trust you, they need to see three things. They need to see your heart, they need to see your humor, and they need to see your humanity.
Mm.
Well, that was a baller answer. Thank you.
Mic drop.
I appreciate
Guys,
that.
super epic, Ryan. I do want to just shout out Ryan before. I know some of you guys have to bounce at the 30-minute mark. And Ryan, I know you got to pick up the kiddos and coach soccer, and I really appreciate your time. Where can people go to find out more about you? I know they're going to want to get your books and like dive in. Where's the best place, Ryan, for all the guys just to plug in? Like, I'm a part of his newsletter, guys. I read it all the time. It's highly recommend it. Where can they go, Ryan, to get that info?
Yeah, thanks, Carrie, for asking the question. I'd say the best next step is if any of this resonates with you and you want to go deeper, our time is super limited here today. I do write a weekly newsletter by hand, 2,000 to 4,000 words every single week, deeply researched, based on what I'm working on, mistakes that I'm making, lessons learned. It's not an AI play at all. It's coming straight from this right here. And if you're interested in diving deeper, the link to that is thedigitalcontrarian.com. And if we're able to put a link to that.
Yep, I got you. Yep.
Spell. That's the first place. Second place is if you have any interest in this idea of the return to real, the opportunity that it presents, going much deeper into what we just briefly touched on here today. If you want to get on the early notification list for when that book releases in early 2026, that link is returntorealbook.com. That's returntorealbook.com. And those would be the two best places to go deeper and to continue this conversation and hopefully pick up from what we've been talking about here today.
Ryan, you're a legend. Are you able to stay just a couple more minutes to answer some questions?
I've got a hard stop at the 45-minute mark, so I've got
Okay.
15 minutes to stick around and hang out for if you know.
Yeah. Well, let's get a full round of applause for Ryan. And if you're watching the replay, give him a round of applause. And Ryan, man, you're a legend. This is so powerful. Again, it's just a great reminder for us all. There's more to life than just the immediate fires that we're constantly extinguishing. I know some people do have to jet, so if you have to drop, that's okay. We can plug in the recording to the WhatsApp chat later. But I think Grant and Thomas, you had a question. Do you want to ask it?
It's actually not so much a question, but just more of just an appreciation for how Ryan walked through this. And so for context, when I started coaching, 16, 17 years ago, I actually started in the dating space. They knew me as the professional wingman. And if you think about 2009, like Twitter had, less than 500,000 users, right? Like Foursquare was getting hot. Like there was a lot of technology that we probably don't even know that like was new back then, right? Like we just take it for granted today because it's such an everyday thing. And one of the things that I did that was very unique was that I actually went out with my clients and I actually helped them develop the skill set and the confidence to meet people in person, right? For the purpose of romantic connections. One of the things that I had said at the time, I was like, 15 to 20 years from now, this was 2009, I had no idea that this was what was going on with that. we'd have such an accelerated take on dating because of location-based services, because video was going to be involved, and then later technology, that there was going to be a complete shift where we'd become over dependent on the technology and desire in-person connection even more. So people were kind of laughing at me. They were like, "What do you mean?" Like, I'm like, well, at some point you're going to want to meet in person, right? Like you're going to need those skills. No matter how great you look digitally, you're going
Thomas,
to
I
have to.
love you, brother.
Yeah,
I love you. Do you got a
yeah.
question for Ryan, or do you want to just talk
So
about how on the money you were about this revolution?
no, yeah, no, great, good point, Carrie. Sorry about that. I don't want to take up too much time. So my question for you is like seeing the principles around like the first part that you said, like the economic forces. Do you see that there's going to be a ramp up? The reason why I brought this up as context is because in dating, they talk about
Yeah.
there's three things you don't talk about: finances, politics, religion, right? And here we are in a world that's being completely upended digitally through those very three things. Is that kind of a part of what you're going to, you see us kind of getting more into before there's a big shift?
Gosh, it's a great question. I think, there are, what I would say is this, that it's very common to have the right thesis with the wrong timing. And what I mean by that is like you were probably ahead of your time with the observations that you made, and maybe, it's like, people were, doubting what it is that you were seeing at that time that's now showing up in different ways. And I think with a lot of what we're about to see, whether we take any one of these, right? Some of the predictions that I've seen take place with AI as an example. And there's this huge spectrum, right? From we're going to be experiencing universal basic income, UBI, in the next, coming years, 90% unemployment, most things that we think of that are even not replaceable with a human being, like plumbing is the classic example, where with, the figure AI humanoid robots that we have are not that far away, maybe a generation or two away from being able to, fix the leak in our toilet by actually coming into our home. Like there's that end of the spectrum where it's like nothing is safe. And then there's the other end of the spectrum, which is, well, we've been here before, where we thought, for example, when the dot-com boom took over in the late 1990s and early 2000s, that we thought, okay, everything is going to be digitized. Like we're going to be doing everything through the internet instantaneously. And here we are 25 years later. And yes, much of what we do, much of commerce is conducted over the internet, but not everything is. And there is this desire for getting back together in person. And, yes, we do have Uber Eats on one hand, dropping food at our doorstep. But on the other hand, you go to restaurants, certainly in my town, and on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, like there's a wait out the door for people who want to connect together in person. So like both of these things are true at the same time. And as often is the case, whether we take a domain like dating or we take a domain like business growth, the truth is in the tension. The truth is not just in the middle, it's in the tension between these two things. And every solution that humanity creates yields a new problem to solve. So the online dating tools that we had created a new opportunity to solve this problem where what happens when you have to swipe right? Is it swipe left or right? I've been married forever, so I don't even, I haven't been in the game for some time, man.
I don't even know.
You swipe, swipe right, what, like 1,000 times before you get one swipe, left. Like that dynamic is showing up in every facet of the world. So I think what's most important in our businesses is to presence what's here. Now, is politics and religion and finances still taboo? I think it's a cultural question. I think it varies from one culture to the other. I spent half a decade working in China many years ago. The cultural taboos in China are very different than the cultural taboos certainly in the United States and some other places that I've traveled around the world. So I think that's a localized question in many ways. And I think that, I don't know. I mean, I think some of these taboos like presence them. Like I'm a big believer in don't hide the skeleton in the closet, make the skeleton dance. Put the skeleton in the room for everybody to see, and let's get it out in the open, and then let's have a conversation about it. And it's skeleton is a lot less scary when we take it out in the middle of the living room, make it dance, than when we think about it in the closet and the fear that it evokes. So I don't know if that's helpful, but that's my take on some of what you shared.
That's good. Thanks, brother.
You got it, man.
Love it, dude. That's a great line. Don't make the skeleton dance. Don't hide it. All right, Grant, what you got? Question.
First, just appreciation and gratitude, Ryan. Your message, truly resonates with me. And just I kind of fall in between your spectrum of on your things. I've been working my whole life on a mission, to try to help preserve our wild places in a lot of different ways around sustainable business, right? And so I've been early on the B Corp movement, or the company I currently, am working for. We pull plastic out of the ocean for ocean, pulls 50 million pounds of plastic out of the ocean, but we I've been, really in that same kind of paradigm shift where I spend more time with God-made things than man-made things, but have to leverage this technology. I'm more not analog. I see it as a problem in the environmental movement where we need to scale, right? Like we have to find ways to scale in order to combat the scaled problem, right? That's on the other side. So I'm just, trying to understand on how to best come to grips with that, and using your methodology and how do we it's almost the reverse of a lot of these things for the environmentalists that are too analog and need digital to be able to scale their message, need to spend more time, working to, leveraging these, tech solutions in different ways to bring this message and get companies abroad. Because at Four Ocean, we scaled because of technology, right? So I'm just, trying to understand how do you, grips with it. Like we need scalable solutions, yet we all as individuals need to take this time for us too.
Yeah, it's such a balance, man. I feel like, the longer I live and the more tread I got underneath these tires, the more I think that it's just a constant micro recalibration of how you spend your days. And
Mm,
it's the story of like how do you get from Tokyo to Paris? It's a million course corrections to get there, where you point things in the right direction and then you get blown off course and you get a repoint in the right direction, then you get blown off course and you get blown off course this way, and you're just I think that's what life is all about. Like in this season of life, I feel a bit stretched because I'm coaching two soccer teams. It's busy harvest season. I normally have a farm manager on site. I don't right now. My wife is going through she went through a surgery where she's not physically able to do what she's been able to do. She's been on bed rest so I'm like in this season of stretch right now where I feel really, really, really stretched. I could not do this forever. But I also know that, like when you sign up to run a marathon or a bike race, like, you just got to get through it. Like, that there's going to be like mile 22 is going to suck. And you just got to get through it because you know that the finish line is within sight. So I think that there's some element of finding what it is in your life and in your work life that you're doing that's unscalable for your own personal fulfillment and satisfaction and to keep fueling you so you don't burn out. I think that's
mm,
that's the thing. Like, I've been thinking a lot about this where it's like, where am I making change in the world? Where am I inspiring and pushing and forcing change in the world? Well, for me, it's, I'm coaching 30 kids on the soccer team. Is that the best and highest use of my time? Am I reaching the most people? Am I getting the most leverage? No, I'm not. But these are kids that I'm touching in a real and meaningful way. And I derive a tremendous amount of value from that. Is the most meaningful thing for me to be, growing, raising the chickens that I'm raising and the pigs that I'm raising to make an impact in the world? No, but it's a paradigm that I know based on the people that I bring to our site who see what it is that we're doing, who are inspired by what it is that we're doing, and say, I want to do some version of that. Maybe not exactly what you're doing, Ryan, but I'm inspired by raising and growing 80, 90% of the food that your family eats and consumes as a family. Like that's pretty inspiring and it's achievable, it's possible. So I think sometimes we have these lofty goals of like, I've got to, and I've had these too. So this is not me preaching from the pulpit. This is me airing my own shit out as well, where it's like, I want to change a million lives, right? I want to impact a million. But in the process, it's like we question, why the hell am I doing what I'm doing? I'm not doing the things that brought me into this in the first place. Like I'm spending my days in front of a computer screen to try to make this change. And am I ready to sacrifice my existence, my one wild and precious life, to be able to affect the change that I want to affect? And that's a deeply personal question. Like I can't answer that for anybody else other than and myself. And that's why I've made some of the choices that I'm making. That's why I spent hours in our pastures this morning moving cattle when I could hire that out at $25 an hour, but I'm the one doing that. I'm the one with dirt underneath my fingernails. I'm the one that's putting those miles in myself because I derive a tremendous amount of satisfaction from that type of work. So I don't have an answer other than to say that I think it's something that you should absolutely confront and reflect on and ask yourself, what am I optimizing for in this season of life? What am I optimizing for? For me, I know what I'm optimizing for in this season of life. It's the question that I always start every client relationship with when I advise a business owner, a CEO. What are you optimizing for right now? For me, I know what it is. I'm optimizing for, I have a photo of my two boys when they're 3 and 5 years old. You can imagine the silhouette of two young boys holding hands, walking down a path in nature that I took. I snapped this photo. And I took that same photograph last year. They weren't holding hands, they're too big for that now. But my 13 and now 11-year-old walking in our pastures, holding buckets of feed, same thing, the silhouette of them. And the same height differential, except they're 3 feet taller now. What I'm optimizing for is to suck the marrow out of this season of life because I can feel it. I can feel it that the window's closing. So for me, every decision that I make is around that. And I think what you want to have is that same level of certainty and clarity that comes from the conviction of what I describe of the contrarian voice of your heart. It's not a decision you make with your head. This is a decision you make with your body. This is your body telling you what you should be doing, and learn to listen to that somatic experience, that somatic message that your body is telling you that this is what I should be doing with my life at this moment in time. Not forever, but right now.
Yeah, beautiful, man.
That is powerful. Listen to the somatic message of what your body is saying to you, gentlemen. That's, I think, also can be summed up with that gut feeling too, that intuition. We have to lean in heavy to that. We do potentially have one more quick question for Ryan, if we can. Ryan, who has a real quick banger that they just feel like they got to ask Ryan? Anyone have one that they want to unmute and let rip? Stevie?
I have curiosity. Vermont. So, are you going to harvest maple as well?
We have 1,000 taps maple. Yeah, we produce.
Let's go.
100% of our sweetener on site between our maple syrup and honey. Produce 100% of our protein on site between our beef, pork, chicken, eggs, and trout. We produce, I just harvested 100 pounds of potatoes. I've got another 100 pounds. We do about 250 pounds of potatoes out of the ground. I did 1,000 head of garlic, 1,000 onion. I mean, we do a lot here on site.
What kind of evaporator are you using in your sugar shack?
So good question. So we partner with our neighbor who does the harvesting for us. So we have a vacuum system on the most of our site. Most of the 140 acres, at least half of that is sugar bush, and some ancient sugar bush, like 200-year-old maples that are just like epic.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, obviously not decisions I made. It was decisions that the farmers that, were on the site before us made. Yeah, so he manages that part of our farm. And that's the other thing that I would say is when I got into this, farming bit, I thought, okay, this is like about, resilience. This is Thoreau, this is Walden, this is self-reliance. And I think that there's never been a bigger myth. So when you're in a group of men like this and realize like we need to count on each other, we need to be able to count for whatever it is that we're doing, because nobody does it alone. The whole lone wolf thing is a freaking myth. And so, for example, we partner with a family that helps us manage the bees. We partner with our neighbor that helps us with the sugaring. We bring in other farmers to help us with the chicken processing. My boys and I, my wife, we slaughtered on farm 100 meat birds last year. We slaughtered 2 pigs on farm, but we're bringing in help to do this. It's not, just me, myself, and I on everything. I think that's a myth. So I couldn't answer the model of the evaporator that we're running on the property because I've got, a farmer that I partner with, and it's a great deal. We split some of the cash and we split some of the syrup. And we have access to, our land here to be able to do that. So
Great lessons. Thank you, Ryan. Really appreciate all that you've brought to us today. Thank you.
got it, man.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
thanks
much,
for the
Ryan.
opportunity.
I think we need to go to a Happy Hustle Farm Tour Mastermind at the Levesque residence.
Dude, I'm telling you, man,
Let's,
I'm down. I'm down. I just
let's-
hosted a
I know.
site. It was pretty epic. So yeah, let's talk. Let's do it.
I'm planting the seed, pun intended, baby. All right, guys, let's clap it up for Ryan one more time. I know he's got a jet, and I know you
Thanks,
guys
guys.
too. Thank you so much for
Appreciate
everything,
it.
Ryan. Appreciate
Thanks,
you,
Gary.
brother.
All right.
And sending
take
you
care,
all
guys.
lots of love and light. All right. Great meeting
Likewise.
today, and God bless, gents.